Howdy, I'm Bob Height. I'm sure you've heard about the ongoing effort to restore and preserve one of our country's national treasures, the American Everglades. In the next half hour, we'll see what's being done to repair environmental damage and protect the remaining natural systems, not only for the benefit for the folks who live in Florida, but for the millions of people from all over the world who vacation here. Beginning near Orlando and stretching south to Florida Bay, the Everglades is one of the most biologically diverse ecosystems on the planet. Thousands of species of marine animals and hundreds of species of birds and other wildlife coexist in this vast wetland that once spanned 9 million acres. The remaining Everglades is half its original size. What is left is bounded by dikes, crisscrossed by canals and levees, and its life-supporting water is managed by humans to meet multiple needs for cities and farms, as well as the environment. The heart of the Everglades is water. Sheets of it used to move unobstructed across the landscape, eventually flowing out to the sea. But in the early part of the last century, people wanted to get rid of the water and use the land for agriculture and development. Draining the Everglades was a major issue in 1904, when Floridians elected a governor who pledged to do just that. It was still a major issue in 2004 for Florida's 43rd governor, who was leading an effort to undo the damage created by the policies of the last century.
Even during tough budget times, not one penny has been lost to the restoration of the Everglades. In fact, we've accelerated funding to purchase land faster than what was anticipated.
The Everglades Restoration Plan is a 30-year outline to put the pieces of this ecosystem back together again. About half of the $8 billion price tag is from the federal government, and about a third of that money is earmarked to buy new land.
Having reassembled the land, we are able to move forward with a project that will basically fill in the canal, grade down the roads, and create a sheet flow to bring back the natural vegetation, the cypress that was here 100 years ago.
Symptoms of the need for Everglades restoration are right in our own backyards, even on our beaches. In times of excess rain, water releases from Lake Okeechobee have been blamed for fish die-offs and algae blooms in estuaries and coastal areas. During dry season, demand for water often exceeds supply, raising the very real fear that one day there may not be enough water to go around.
It took us 160 years to mess up the state of Florida. It's going to take a little while to get it fixed back and come up with new technologies, new science, new ways of doing things, and having people willing to try those new methods.
Everglades restoration relies on new technologies and practices to capture and store excess water in the wet season for use during the dry season. Practices that will ensure adequate water for human needs and for the environment, but will also eliminate the need for harmful freshwater releases to the estuaries. Everglades restoration also has major water quality components that require cleaning urban and farm water of harmful pollutants before it enters the Everglades ecosystem. There are lots of people working every day on different ways to restore the Everglades. Let's meet some of the folks who are taking the lead. Robert Shuford loves going to work every day. Knee-deep in mud in the alligator-infested heart of the Everglades, he monitors the tiniest of creatures living here, invertebrates like this apple snail. As an aquatic ecologist, his assignment is to figure out what water conditions the apple snail and other invertebrates thrive in. A healthy apple snail population ensures enough food for the birds, baby alligators, and fish that depend on these snails for nutrition. Simply put, more of these snails mean more wildlife will return to the Everglades.
We have to understand how this system works. We have to understand the seasonality. We have to understand, what sources of food are available for certain animals.
Shuford's interest in marine biology started very early in life, at age 4, when he watched The Adventures of Jacques Cousteau on TV. His research today on the apple snail population is hot and messy. But like many of the scientists working on CERP, the Comprehensive Everglades Restoration Plan, he has his personal reasons.
I would like for my grandkids to enjoy the same habitats, the same environments that I enjoyed. It's not only just a wetland for Florida, it's a wetland for the world.
Hey, how are you?
Good, how you doing?
Often described as a petite powerhouse, Aurella Begay is determined to make sure that she is doing everything she possibly can to quickly and effectively protect America's Everglades. Her interest in the health of Florida's water supply began back in her early years.
Well, my interest in water issues started when I was about 8 years old and I went to a field trip to the Everglades National Park. I realized then how nature is so linked to our urban community.
As a board member of South Florida's Water Management District, Aurella's input helps to guide the agency in charge of Everglades restoration. A lifetime resident of Miami, Begay is especially interested in cleaning up the Miami River and Biscayne Bay. As the area's population increased dramatically during the past century, stormwater and untreated sewage flowed into the river, and from there it traveled into the bay. Both were in critical condition by the 1990s, but now both are on their way to a full recovery. Begay serves as chairman of the Miami River Commission and a champion of the Biscayne Bay Coastal Wetlands Project.
Anytime you take a large body of water and you restore it, it creates a lasting effect to our natural systems. Primarily with Biscayne Bay, what we're going to be doing is rehydrating the areas. We're going to see fish nurseries coming back, which means wading birds will be coming back in droves. And, you know, that just creates a beautiful environment for us to live in and to enjoy.
Begay has worked for both the National Audubon Society and the Miami-Dade Board of County Commissioners before opening her own public relations company. She's learned the ins and outs of the technical side of water management by spending time in the trenches. The effective management of our water resources and the large-scale ecosystem restoration being done to clean up Florida's Everglades requires tremendous dedication. Aurella Begay has made this a major part of her life's work. Sunrise on Florida Bay signals the beginning of another day on the water for hundreds of fishing guides in the Florida Keys. Their job is to help fishing enthusiasts who come here from all over the world catch fish and enjoy the beauty of the Everglades.
Hey there.
Hey, how are you?
Doing good. How you doing? We going fishing today?
I hope so.
As part of the largest restoration project in our country's history, fishing guide Mike Collins could have sat back and waited for it to happen. Instead, he decided he needed to work with local, state, and federal politicians to ensure that the Everglades continue to be a vital part of Florida's economy.
There are a whole lot of economic interests in the state of Florida that depend on the Everglades. They're fishing guides, they're commercial fishermen, they're tourist-based industries all over the south of Florida that wouldn't exist if we didn't have the Everglades.
Michael Doucette from Lexington, Massachusetts, is on an annual fishing trip with friends from Canada and other parts of the Northeast. He's aware of the financial commitment made by the state of Florida and the federal government to restore Florida's Everglades.
I think money being spent on the Everglades is money well spent. It'll give a great return. It's fishing is something that's passed down from father to son, and you know, we should have it for generations to come.
As part of the comprehensive Everglades restoration plan, the program to improve Florida Bay has been fast-tracked. This is a welcoming sign to fishing guides like Mike Collins.
It's easy to sit on the sideline and find fault. There are a whole lot of people doing it. It's a lot harder to find a way to make all this work, and I would ask that if you care about the Everglades, find a way to support what we're doing.
They call themselves the Mud Divers, a team of 6 underwater experts responsible for maintaining equipment and ensuring that water flows through the canals that lead into the Everglades. Their job is sometimes hot and dangerous, but with the help of the latest in underwater video surveillance, it just got a lot easier. This is a remotely operated vehicle, or ROV, called a Video Sea Ray. It's small enough to get into culverts or tight areas around the district's pumping stations, and it takes pictures underwater and then sends them back to be recorded on land.
It's basically a camera that's on a little submersible submarine that goes underwater, and it's our eyes underwater to do inspections and whatnot. It's really very simple. It's not really complicated. It's just a motorized camera.
Just come on up the hill real nice and easy.
Doug Updike is supervisor of the Mud Divers, and he's been with the district for 29 years.
This machine may be able to find an object in the canal, but it cannot hook up a cable or chain or wrecker to pull it out. So once this machine does find it, we'll know where it's at. We can send a diver directly to it.
The ROV is always ready to go and requires only 2 people to operate. It speeds up response time and makes the job of these divers a lot safer. The success of the $8 billion Everglades restoration project comes down to one thing: water, and getting the water right. Half the Everglades have been lost to development and agriculture, all in the name of progress. Water flow has been disrupted, water supplies depleted, and water quality degraded. In our next section of Restoring America's Everglades, we'll tell you about some of the unique projects underway that are correcting our mistakes of the past. The Loxahatchee Impoundment Landscape Assessment, or LILA, is the largest constructed wetlands ever designed for research. What scientists learn here will help biologists and engineers restore the Everglades.
We're trying to get a better feel for how to get the water exactly right when we go to restore the water conservation areas in the Everglades.
A series of specialized pumps will allow scientists to control the flow of water, mimicking the sheet flow that once moved unobstructed from Lake Okeechobee into the Everglades. Getting it right is crucial. Too much or too little water can have far-reaching consequences.
If the fish don't like it, you could lower the numbers of fish, which then in turn could alter the wading bird population or the alligators.
It's taken 2 years to design and build this Everglades microcosm. 4 man-made tree islands now rise from the wetlands, replicas of those that once dotted the Everglades landscape. More than half of them have disappeared.
We think that there is a way to bring tree islands back just by getting the hydrology right. And that's what we're going to learn from here.
The goal of the LILA project is to ensure that the work done to restore the Everglades is based on sound science, but it's providing other benefits as well.
It's also a public benefit because it's in an area that's highly visible by a lot of visitors, and they can come out and see what the native or natural part of the Everglades might look like.
You'd have to travel deep into the heart of the Everglades to see what has been created right here in the heart of Palm Beach County, just a stone's throw from civilization. And it'll benefit future scientists as well.
We are hoping from this experiment to provide a research forum for high school students, for universities, because it is now accessible. Being here at the Loxahatchee National Wildlife Refuge, we can provide an easy research forum.
Everglades restoration will take 30 years to finish. By that time, a whole new generation will be contributing their knowledge to this complex project. What scientists of today and tomorrow learn in this outdoor laboratory will have a major impact on the success of the largest restoration project in history. Ed Bedell, a local fishing guide, is getting his first look at the new face of the Kissimmee River. And so far, he likes what he sees.
The cleanliness process is happening. I mean, obviously, most of this area was covered with muck, and the new flow patterns have moved the muck away.
These white sandy shores are signs of a healthy river. So are the birds. Until recently, the banks of the Kissimmee were choked with muck. The birds abandoned the river after flood control policies of the 1960s drained the wetlands, destroying their nesting sites. Decaying plants and bacteria consumed oxygen in the water, suffocating the fish. This once winding, vibrant river was transformed into a straight line of water flowing from Orlando to Okeechobee.
We pretty much wiped this out as waterfowl habitat. Wading birds abandoned the river, and now they're coming back. So that's a very encouraging sign.
Biologists and engineers spent 15 years creating a plan to undo the damage to the river. Concerned citizens joined forces with scientists, successfully lobbying policymakers to fund it. It took another 5 years to complete the first phase, backfilling 7.5 miles of canal and reconnecting 15 miles of river. When the project is complete, 27,000 acres of wetlands will be restored, and 43 miles of natural flow will be reestablished in the river.
With that grassroots effort, I think there has been a constant push on government, federal government, state government, water management districts to move ahead and sort of keep your eye on the prize.
The prize will not only be enjoyed by people who live along the Kissimmee River. The restored wetlands that border it will help filter out pollutants, benefiting everyone and everything downstream. It means cleaner water flowing into Lake Okeechobee, into the Caloosahatchee River, and ultimately the Everglades.
This is the first benchmark on our return as citizens on the investment they've been making. And I say it's the first good positive note.
Proof that this project has already made a difference is in the wildlife, finally returning to the shores of a river that is slowly regaining the shape of its former self. Arriving by the truckloads and by boat, over 80 volunteers showed up to help build oyster reefs in Estero Bay. These oyster shells will be used to restore the oyster population that help clean up the water by filtering out bacteria and contaminants. This is one way to rebalance the ecosystem that man has disrupted. 400 bags of oyster shells, each weighing around 30 pounds, were caravanned out on dozens of boats to the Back Bay waters. Volunteers from middle school age to seniors stood in waist-deep water in order to help scientists and Florida Gulf Coast University students build new oyster reefs.
Well, I'm helping out. For one reason, I want to be a marine biologist when I grow up.
The purpose of the project is to create substrate, a hard surface on which larval oyster can settle and build a living oyster reef. Toma Barnes, a biologist, is overseeing the building of these oyster reefs in Naples Bay, Estero Bay, and the Caloosahatchee River in South Florida.
They've been doing oyster restoration throughout the eastern United States and Gulf of Mexico, and I think this is our third year of restoring, and we have plans to do it again next year.
The beds planted last year are now home to live oysters, indicating that the project is working.
Right now we just come out, and if there's oysters growing on it, it's a success. We're in the process of getting the monthly monitoring and things up like that. But as long as we have live oysters attaching to these, it's a success.
Project managers attribute the growing number of volunteers as a sign that people would like to reverse any negative impact man has had on the environment. Their goal is to help restore the health of our rivers and estuaries to what it used to be.
Okay?
Thank you, sir.
You can wear your jackets or not. If you can't swim,
Eric
you won't
Bailey
wear
has
it.
worked on the Loxahatchee River in North Palm Beach County, Florida for over 25 years. As owner of Canoe Outfitters of Florida, he watches people come from all over the world to enjoy the river's natural beauty. He's also seen the changes, especially to the North Fork, through the years.
The Loxahatchee actually originally was the northern drain for the Everglades. Today, the Everglades and the Loxahatchee are not connected in any noticeable manner. We're hoping that someday that connection will be redone and we'll have the connection between this river and the Everglades.
That's why the effort to restore the river became part of the comprehensive Everglades restoration plan. The state of Florida purchased 17,000 acres of surrounding land, hoping to restore and preserve the health of the plants and animals that live in this pristine cypress forest.
The freshwater flows to the Northwest Fork have been redirected away from the Northwest Fork over the last 50 or 60 years. This has caused a really tremendous adverse impact on the cypress forest, which makes this area so unique.
So everyone can enjoy the river's natural beauty, the federal, state, and local agencies involved in the Loxahatchee River Restoration Project have already committed spending $3.5 million over the next 2 years.
We have family that live in the area, and we were looking for something different to do while we were visiting. We obviously don't have a habitat like this in New Jersey, so it's very different from home.
That is always going to be a fight to get more money for the environment. This is definitely a part of the environment. It is definitely a part of what we need to fight for. And the more people we get down this river to see the beauty of this river, the more willing they're going to be to put money into the environment.
The glades are wetlands where, when healthy, thousands of varieties of plants and animals thrive. In our next set of stories, you'll see why the glades are so special and why there's a tremendous amount of public support for restoring the beauty.
There you go.
From a group of inner-city children learning how to snorkel at the Marine Resources Development Center,
we're going to be paddling into the Everglades,
to a kayaking club setting out on a nature tour through Everglades National Park, Florida Bay, off the coast of Key Largo, is used by millions of outdoor enthusiasts every year. Monica Wohl has owned and operated Florida Bay Outfitters for over 14 years.
Our business is a nature-based business. Kayaking and canoeing, of course, people want to paddle somewhere where it's really beautiful, get away from, you know, urban areas. If they live in urban areas, certainly they paddle up there, but they like to get away. And no one's going to come to the Keys if our nature goes away.
The plant and animal populations in Florida Bay have declined over the last few decades. Scientists have found that managing the water quality and quantity in more northern areas of Florida has a direct impact on the southern part of the state.
You have a certain amount of fresh water that falls on the Everglades. Used to come to Florida Bay, now it's getting sent to the St. Lucie and the Caloosahatchee. So they're getting more water than they used to, we're getting less. They both need fresh water, but they both need the amount that they would normally get.
Included in the comprehensive Everglades restoration plan is a better way to control the freshwater levels in these rivers and Florida Bay. This will help stabilize the environment and once again allow nature to thrive, ensuring a healthy tourist-based economy. The Dubois management area stretches across almost 35 square miles in western Palm Beach and Martin counties, once the northernmost part of the Everglades. This former ranch was purchased from the Dubois family in 1986 through Florida's Save Our Rivers program. There are now miles of trails for hiking, horseback riding, bicycling, camping, and even hunting. Its proximity to the towns and cities on Florida's east coast makes it a popular spot for recreation.
People can leave the city and come out here and hear eagles talk to each other and see all different types of wildlife like turkey, hog, deer, and hawks, just coons, any armadillos. Just it's a family setting that you can't see in the urban life.
While Dubois is open to the public every day of the year, its managers are mindful that the area is more than just a recreational area. It was acquired with taxpayer dollars to protect water resources. Its unique features require a variety of stewardship activities, ranging from prescribed burns to filling in old ditches that were originally dug to drain the land.
This property was purchased because it was significant land. In the case, us being the South Florida Water Management District, property was purchased because it has significant water resources.
As the effort to restore America's Everglades continues, more land will be acquired for water management, water supply, and the conservation and protection of water resources. The Dubois management area has been well received by the public as a good example of how public lands can be managed in a way that protects the land and water while making it available for everyone to enjoy. Located in a remote part of eastern Hendry County, a large group of bird watchers gathered to take a guided tour led by Margaret England.
The foal of a Swissling duck is more closely related to a goose.
She's a senior naturalist and board member of the Hendry Glades Audubon Society, who volunteers her time and expertise to teach people about the importance of preserving Florida's Everglades.
Well, I'm very excited about Everglades restoration. I'm a new birder, but I'm a third-generation Floridian, and I would like to see these expanded. This is still part of what Florida used to be and what we would like for it to be for future generations.
This is a stormwater treatment area. It was designed by the South Florida Water Management District to filter out high levels of nutrients carried in from nearby farm water runoff. The Water Management's new recreation policy opens up district land to the public as long as it doesn't interfere with its primary purpose to clean up the water before it reaches the glades. An extra bonus is that these efforts have resulted in a large tract of undisturbed open water and good vegetation, perfect for attracting a wide variety of migratory and resident birds. This tour was made up of bird experts from the Calusa Bird Club of Southwest Florida, along with nature photographers and enthusiasts.
You can see it's worth restoring. I think it's really important for Florida. Their tourism is really important, therefore keeping it like it was. People are coming to see what they envision it being, and they need to restore it, otherwise you know, the Everglades won't be as lush and as green as it is.
This area has been open for guided tours and duck hunting since 2004. It will eventually open up to the public on a regular basis. Traveling along a 15-mile stretch of Everglades National Park on any given day are large numbers of visitors anxious to see and learn about Florida's Everglades.
The white birds out at the water are snowy egrets.
Peggy Barr is a volunteer guide for the Shark Valley Tram Tour. The tours run every day on the hour and last about 2 hours. Passengers range from families to school groups, many of whom are seeing the beauty of the Everglades for the very first time. The tram makes a stop at a lookout tower so they can get a better view.
You know, in China, it's a pretty fast developing. We lost a lot of these wildlife places, and it's a pretty good experience to be here. I see a lot of alligators, birds, and take a lot of fantastic pictures. I really like it.
Along with information about the plants and animals of the Everglades, the group learns about the efforts underway by the South Florida Water Management District and the Army Corps of Engineers to help restore and preserve this famous ecosystem.
We learned that there are a couple of things which we were worried about. One, which is the imposing of new exotic animals into the Everglades, which are having a negative impact. The second part was the draining of the water off the Everglades and how much of an impact that's had on in the past. But we were really happy at the conservation efforts that are obviously now in process in the park and that are starting to have an effect.
During the ride through Shark Valley, they learn how the Everglades start from the Kissimmee River and run down through Florida Bay. They also see why it's important to protect this expansive land rich with wildlife, so that it remains one of America's natural treasures. The 30-year master plan to revitalize the Everglades now has some key projects that have been accelerated for completion in the next 7 to 10 years. That's in response to the urgency to correct the problems as soon as possible. Regardless of how long it takes, the story of the restoration of the Everglades will continue to be of interest to our generation and many generations to come. I'm Bob Hite. Thanks for being with us.